Hi folks, how you doing? A couple of decisive games we had in the Gashimov Memorial 2015 in the third round, and one of those games was played between Wesley So with white pieces and Michael Adams, the English GM, as black, and that's the game we're gonna see today. Wesley plays 1d4, knight f6, c4, e6. Wesley does allow the Nimzo Indian, but Michael Adams says nay. He goes for the solid and classical Queen's Gambit declined, and Wesley decides to play the exchange variation with bishop g5. A very normal and classical line. Here a couple of moves are possible, either bishop e7 or c6, both aimed to protect the d5 pawn. e3, we have an early h6 by Michael Adams. Bishop goes back and bishop e7. Bishop d3, so far very normal games. We're gonna see normal development for both players. Knight bd7 and f3 is played here. Yeah, this is pretty standard in lots of lines in the exchange variation of the Queen's Gambit declined. In this so-called Carlsbad variation, white can go either for knight f3 castle and then try for a minority attack here on the queen side, or play another way, well, most of the times with f3, developing the knight to e2, queen c2, castling, and later try a well-timed e4. And well, this is an idea I tried to understand and use and study years ago, and there is a bunch of classical games by the likes of Botvinnik showing crushing victories for white with, as I said, well-timed e4 and advances in the center, having crushing kingside attacks, attacking in the center. So for lots of time this was thought to be very dangerous for black, these kind of ideas. So there is a whole line in the Queen's Gambit declined which tries to, well, in fact tries to avoid all these complications with f3, forcing white to push to move his knight first. Let us see that position. It would have to go with another move order. We have to play d4, d5, c6, e6, sorry, and after knight c3, instead of playing knight f6, there is the move bishop e7. I think this is called the Armenian variation because the Grand Petrosian first used it or something, and then the likes of Levon Aronian have used it a lot. And here white usually goes with knight to f3, and now black can safely play knight f6. There is no more f3 e4 stuff coming against him. So yeah, this is another possibility. Not that this f3 possibility is that horrible for black. There is certainly ways for black to defend and counterattack, of course. But yeah, for a lot of time this was thought to be very dangerous, and well, I tried to study these ideas as white, but obviously didn't get too far. Okay, Michael Adams just castles, queen c2, and here he plays, which to my eyes is a little bit strange, but of course I must be here completely wrong. This leaves slightly strange looking weakness here on c6, the pawn, but okay, maybe black just can perfectly afford this, and this is maybe theory, I don't know. The standard plan I know here for black, kind of, is to play to the rook to e8, then knight f8, overprotecting h7, and later either knight or bishop to e6, having quite a solid position in these exchange variations of the Queen's Gambit declined. But b5 was played here, knight ge2 and knight to b6, from where it can go to c4, having a good look here now, protected with both black pawns. Here a3 was played by Wesley So, move I can hardly understand, if it's not because white wants to play b4, but what that would allow a great knight on c4. Honestly, I don't get this move, so a lot for us to learn, of course. a5 is played, White finally castles, bishop to d7, protecting the weakness. On c6, completing development. Knight c1, another kind of strange move. Well, of course the knight wants to go to b3, possibly trying to jump in good conditions. To c4, to c5, maybe Wesley wants to play b4, secure the c5 post for his knight, so knight b3, c5 later, those kind of things. But Mickey Adams goes with his knight first, so knight to c4, which obviously is attacking the pawn on e3, so rook to e1 to protect that. Now the bishop goes to e6. There is no more danger, at least for the time being, of this pawn being captured by the white queen. It's a long way since the white since the black knight is here in the way. So the bishop goes to d5 in case it is needed here on another more active diagonal. Knight to b3. Now interesting and good move, knight to d7, because I mean white was kind of threatening to take here on f6. After the bishop captures back, the c5 square would be for white to occupy it for free, let's say. So knight to d7, and after bishops are exchanged, if they are, the knight keeps guarding c5. But Wesley wasn't in the move to exchange this bishop, so he goes to f2. Rook c8, rook a d1. We're gonna see now how both players complete their development. Queen to c7, h3. Wesley so takes all preventive measures to avoid counterplay by black. Rook f d8, and we can see neither of them is in hurry. They are preparing all their army and taking all measures to make sure they are ready for the battle to come. And having completed development, it is time for white to try to go for something, and f4 looking very natural here, of course, with the immediate threat to trap this bishop on e6, at which Adams counterattacks on the queen flank with a4. Wesley goes f5, and they exchange pieces here. Black takes, of course white has to take first, and now bishop takes on f5, and bishop takes. Nice move by black here, rook b8, getting away from the pin in this diagonal and putting the rook in a file where the white queen is, so Wesley goes away from the b file, but still black pushes his pawn to get activity here on the b file. A takes, and bishop takes. After 25 moves, well into the middle game, the position seems rather balanced. Okay, white has the bishop pair, but so far nothing that horrible is going on with black's position, and certainly Mickey Adams, having black pieces, can be quite happy with the game so far. Rook e2 was played here by Wesley. As we can see, slow moves so far, not rushing, getting away from the pin. Queen a5 was played, a move which was later criticized by Mickey Adams for himself. He said it was quite stupid or something similar to miss a move like bishop h4, which is, I mean, uncomfortable because this rook suddenly cannot go anywhere, is under attack, but it has to keep guarding the knight on d7, so a pawn must be moved here to prevent the capture. f6 is played, but unfortunately for Adams this leaves a bunch of holes here on the light squares around his king. So now we're gonna see slowly but surely white's bishop pair starting to be more and more powerful, and as we're gonna see, tactics are going to play an important role here. Knight a4 is played, knight to f8, and bishop to d3. This was the idea of going with the knight to a4, attacking this knight on c4, trying to win here a pawn, as the queen would capture with check. Knight goes back to b6, and knight to c3. c5, and well, usually the opening of the position is helps the player having the better the bishop pair and the better coordinated pieces, which in this case we're gonna see it's going to be white. D takes, bishop takes. Once again, Wesley plays prophylactic moves when needed. The bishop is here on the diagonal, so get away with the king. Rook bc8 and bishop f5. Now we can see the bishop pair having some impact, starting to feel comfortable while the position is getting more and more open. Rook goes to c6, and that's a bad move already. Tactics are starting to work, and pins and tactical themes appear on the board. The prophylactic move king h1, now we see its justification, as e4 is very strong here, using the pin on the d file, as the rook on d8 is not protected. We attacked this pawn on d5, it cannot be taken, of course. Well, Adams goes bishop b4, pinning this rook, this knight at the same time, attacking it with 3 pieces. The queen is behind, the knight cannot move, but now Wesley keeps pushing. There is another pin here, remember, this pawn cannot take, as the rook is once again hanging, attacked by the bishop on this diagonal. Interesting to see how the pins are helping Wesley So here, as well as they did in the previous game we saw by Wesley in this tournament, the one he won against Anish Giri. Again, you can see here on the link a wonderful game where he won thanks to a very great pin. I mean, a huge a monster pin there was very helpful for Wesley. Bishop goes to e7, but now queen b3, another pin. We can see here the pawn cannot move, cannot advance, as the king is behind, and now serious pressure against the d5 pawn with 3 pieces, and of course much more coordinated army for Wesley So here. Queen goes to c5, but this is starting to be really difficult, and Wesley So is going to be merciless. He takes on f6, bishop takes, and once again he uses the same pin on the d file to play knight d4. Again, you can't take, as the rook here is hanging on d8, attacked by the queen and the bishop on h4. So queen c4, offering a queen exchange, but this is going to result in a fatal attack. Knight takes f6 check, g takes, which is leaving this poor black king almost defenseless. So queen g3 check, king f7, and look how harmoniously are all white pieces all of a sudden, we may say, placed to deliver the final blow and bring home the full point in this game. Well, Adams tries to hold on, defending the e7 square with the queen and offering an exchange for a couple of rooks for his queen. Rook e7 check, queen takes, rook takes, king takes, but of course the weakness of this king is going to decide the fate of the game. Queen g7 check, king e8, and now very interesting and nice way to finish the game, to deliver the final blow. See if you can find it. A nice and slow move, after which black pretty much must resign, as there is not much he can do. The move is bishop to g4, very beautiful, planning to go simply bishop h5, and that's a huge threat, which is extremely difficult, by the way, to stop by black, almost impossible. So Adams just resigned the game after 45 moves and gave Wesley So another victory in this tournament. 2 victories out of 3 games, if I'm not mistaken, and he now leads this tournament together with Magnus Carlsen after the 3 rounds. Thanks for watching.